today, just doing the bare minimum, you're probably above average in today's societal standard of what a man is. So for me, because of how much work I put in over my entire life, that 45 minutes is more than enough for me to get and maintain where I'm at, because it's a lot easier to maintain what you built than to create something new. I feel great. It doesn't take me much to get a pump. It doesn't take me long to get in and get my mobility right, because I stay mobile. So my mobility work, my dynamic warm-ups take about 5 to 8 minutes. And the workout itself might take me 30 minutes. I might close it out with maybe a 10-minute run with some intervals or something like that, or try to maintain a 7-minute mile, which isn't, that's not something I'm focused on, but it's something I want to maintain. When you look at every modality of training that I'm partaking in, I'm average. Like I'm right in the middle of the group, I would say, in my opinion, on all the modalities of training that I train in. And in order for me to maintain that, it only takes about 35, 45 minutes if you know what you're doing, you know how to progressively overload yourself in a way that's going to be optimal for you as an individual athlete.
Joseph, welcome to the Point of Impact. It is Joseph.
Joseph. I mean, my friends call me Joe. My boss calls me Joseph.
All right. Joe, actually, I don't know who put the typo in, but on my reminders, the calendar, the scheduler, it said Jospeh.
That's not me.
Jospeh. Was that Jospeh? Maybe. What kind of name is that? So at first, that's got to be a typo, or I'm gonna have to figure out how to pronounce your name. All right, thank goodness, it's Joe. But I don't know how you first got on the radar for Point of Impact, but in doing some of the the internet snooping, the stalking and catching up on your episode on Vinny Rock, it just got an incredible story. And from what I understand, I'm blind, but from what I understand, you really like picking things up and putting them down.
I used to, yeah. Yeah, I still do. I still train, not nearly as hard, or as I don't allow myself as much time as it would take for me to continue to compete at the level I was competing at. Priorities happen, life happens, have, kids, get married. I'd rather be walking around with no cane when I'm 60 rather than training the way I was training for the rest, there's a shelf life. Like you're only prescribed so many squats in your life. Body weight, you're only prescribed so many. So it's more so just want to feel good now and just be healthy and reallocate my time to things that really matter. I mean, I'm still in shape, but I don't care about being world's strongest 100-kilo, strongman anymore. It's just not for me anymore.
Well, how did you get into weightlifting in the first place? Like, where did that get started? Where was this?
I was born in '85, so I grew up on, Arnold, Sylvester, Dolph Lundgren. That's the generation of guys that I grew up watching. So they're all big and muscular, so that influenced me. And then my dad, being really an enthusiast with the gym and special operations himself in the Army. When I would go visit him when I was younger, he'd take me. This is when he's actually a pre-ranger instructor in the 75th Ranger Regiment. We go through a pre-ranger course before we go to ranger school. That was the hardest part of ranger school, was pre-ranger for us, hands down. It's not even debatable to me. He was one of the pre-ranger instructors, and I must have been 10. And he would take me to the gym with him, and I would just kind of hang out and do pull-ups or whatever. And I got to train at that gym when I went through RIP, the same gym my dad took me to. So it's always been a thing. It's just been just be in shape, be capable, be strong, be physically capable to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And then I got a little older, and then when I got out of the military, like most kids in their early 20s, wanted to get jacked and, just wanted to be big. So I started training like that for a while, and it's always just been something I've done. Even in high school, it was football practice in the morning, football practice after school, and then the weights after football practice. It's just always been something that I've done. And I started powerlifting when I was 14. or 15. So I mean, it's just always been something I've done, and it's just been an outlet for me to just, even in my adulthood, it's almost therapy now for me, because it's just getting out and doing something physical. Because if I go a few days, I mean, even my wife identifies it. I start getting a little bit more irritable, a little bit more intolerant to things, because I don't know. I don't know if it's just something I need to release on a daily basis, like exert myself physically in some way that's difficult. Maybe it's just checking the box off, doing that hard thing for the day physically that I just need mentally to keep me aligned with the rest of my day. Because then I get subconscious about it if I go 2 or 3 days and I start thinking like, man, I missed the gym yesterday. I missed the gym on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start thinking about it more than I need to. And it takes away capacity from the other things that I need to be prioritizing that are going to give me more leverage to get to where I'm going. But the priority for me, for whatever reason, just it's genuinely always been fitness. Like, I have to do something.
Yeah, that's me with running. If I take any time off, a day or 2 days, I start getting like anxious. My body starts craving some miles. But the weights, the weightlifting for me was a chore. That was tough. So it's interesting, the dynamic there where it that was for you. That was that routine, right? It was just part of the process of living. So, I mean, did you enjoy it? I guess. I mean,
Oh yeah, it was my life. It really was. There was a period of time when I was at my peak and competitively, and I was in the gym 3.5 hours after work. I did cryotherapy twice a week. I did massages once a week. I went to chiropractor every other week. I mean, and those are all things that, in my opinion, were absolutely necessary for me to continue to train at the volume and the intensity I was. I needed those exogenous recovery tools.
mhm.
It was an obsession. Like, I was really, really like, this is my life. Like, if I'm away from home, and this is when I was in North Dakota working. When I'm away from home from my son, like, this is what I do. I go to work, and work is just something I did before I went to train. Like, my whole day revolved around the training session. My food, my sleep, everything could not have been more regimented. It was Meals were prepped. Every single thing was in place. I used every single tool as efficiently as I could to get to where I got. And the only areas that I feel like I probably could have done better are things that are outside of my control. So, like, just control the controllables, and just, I'll get as far as I can possibly go with my own effort applied.
That's an excellent philosophy. And
Yeah.
uh,
You attack everything in life. Like, because the thing is, like, for me, fitness I mean, now that I'm older, I'm 40 now, and I'm not in my, my early 20s and early 30s. I look at it now from fitness is the foundation of everything that I've become, because all the skills that you develop when you're consistent and goal driven in fitness, it's the same values and principles that apply to business, that apply to being a man, to apply to being a father, to apply to everything. It's delayed gratification, consistency, discipline to your goal. Like, they're all the same values. It's just, reallocated in another way. And I did it for a period of time that really solidified them as who I am as a man. Because, I mean, it was from 14 to, I'm 40, and I haven't stopped training. Like, I've always done something. Even now, like, I'm started getting the bug to start competing again. So I started looking at Muay Thai, which it's silly, because I'm 40. These guys are gonna beat me up pretty bad, but it's still fun to train. I found something else that's fun that I'm become really passionate about. And will I ever compete? Probably not. But I can still do, like, the tactical games or something like that. Yeah, there's still something that I'm gonna do. It just, life takes a back seat, but those same skills that you develop through the years of training still stand. Those virtues, the values in being a man, are all rooted. And for me, speaking for myself, are all rooted in fitness. These are all traits I developed through a career in fitness. Um, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to ramble off
yeah,
there.
well, plus, I think it was one of your Facebook posts that say you need to be able to beat up the other kid's dad. Right?
Oh, you saw that. Yeah, that's a joke. It's a joke, but I mean, at the same time, there's some sense. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, there's some sense of pride in that, internal pride that stays within myself. I don't promote it. I'm not like walking around like I'm the tough dad
It's not a
or
literal
anything like
thing.
that. But I mean, at the same time, I'm capable. If something happened, I know my place in the sequence of events that would need to happen in order for this group of people to be safe. Like, and I know that there might be another guy or a man or two here that'll do the same, but I know that I'm capable. So, it's just one of those things. Now it's more of an obsession of just being capable in every scenario. Because like when you look at where the country's going, and I'm not going to get political, but it's very, and maybe just because I'm older, I'm paying more attention now. Maybe it's always been like this, but it seems like it's significantly worse, and that might be exasperating from the media. But irrelevant, I'd rather be ready and not necessary than need to be a certain type of man or have a certain capability and not be able to apply it.
Hmm. Well, you're right. It's like many martial art, practitioners. Is a certain inner peace, a calm that comes from knowing that you can physically control the situation, and you have that strength, you have those skills. If anything gets out of control, that you'll be able to handle yourself and protect others. So,
Mm-hmm.
being strong, and of course, the other attributes that come with just maintaining your physical health. Uh, that's it, but also it's a has a psychological effect as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you also became a ranger like your dad,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
right?
sir.
So and I'm still just picturing after school and football practice going into the weight room. I was even for football practice for me. I was wiped out. I left everything on the field, and I couldn't even imagine going into the gym again. A chore for me, but um, that's a particular level of discipline. But it also helps that you enjoyed it. So, how did this discipline help you when you joined the army? Did you get joined right out of school?
Oh, yeah, I graduated 3 weeks later. I took off, graduated from high school, and 3 weeks later, it was 2003, and the war was still hot and heavy. Back then, not saying at any point it wasn't, but there were absolutely times where it was more bad guys than other periods. Um, man, I don't. It's just always been who I am, and I probably get that from my dad. I've always sought out the harder things. I like work. I just like the satisfaction of knowing that it's almost a high to me to know like to execute a particular task in a way that I feel accomplished is almost like a drug, and I think to some capacity or to some capacity for every man, there's a sense of pride that's associated with progress, regardless of what arena that progress is in. It's continuous progress in every aspect of being a man. And when I was younger, fitness and football was what I was doing. Like I ran track for football, I did powerlifting for football. Like everything was for football, but everything I did the best I could because I understood what it would yield for me for the end goal, which is be really good at football. And so it was. I don't know if it was so much discipline as much as it was just doing all the things that I guess it was discipline, but it wasn't. Man, I don't want to do this kind of discipline. I was like, no, I need to do this because this is what's going to make me better, which made me want to do that. Uh, and then, growing up, my dad was, in the regiment for 10 years. Then he went to special forces for, I think 7 or 13. I don't remember.
Hmm.
Um, so like just growing up in that generation and my dad being who my dad was. I mean, I didn't grow up with my dad, but he's still to this day, he's the man I aspire to be. Like he's kind, he's compassionate, but he's strong, and his presence just demands respect. And I guess that just comes with a lifetime of special operations and becoming a sergeant major, and it just you carry yourself with a certain level of respect. And he has that, and I aspire to be that. I aspire to have that, while at the same time understanding that I am evolution and I should be better in some ways than he is. I should be able to get to where he's at earlier in life. I'm sorry I digressed a little there, but how did it carry over into the military? It was just do the hard things. These are the things I need to do to get from point A to point B. And if I'm not going to get from point A to point B as efficiently as possible, why am I trying? Like if you're not willing to put everything you have into it, why do you apply yourself? That's my perspective. It's, if there's a goal, how do I achieve it? Not just how do I achieve it, how do I achieve it the most effective way possible? And in, going through, OSIT is how do you get through OSIT? Just get screamed at and run fast. Like that was it. So you just, you die a little bit in PT every day, and, you just do what you're told. You maintain discipline because that's what you're told to do. I was obedient. I was really good at being obedient, I guess, which is what you need in a war fighter. But now, as an adult and watching politics and all this and that, obedience isn't, I've expanded, I guess. I've evolved a little bit from the military.
There was a couple things you mentioned there, but there's a balance you got to strike between being able to look back and appreciate the fruits of your labors, right? And like you said, it's really great to see the physical, to see this your work paying off when you work out, your muscles grow, you get stronger, and you can appreciate that. But then there's a limit to looking in the rearview mirror, right? You can't. It's okay to look back, but don't stare. And what I'm saying is, it's good to feel a sense of satisfaction, but don't be satisfied, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's when complacency sets in. And like you were saying, always looking for the hard thing to do. But it's one of the toughest things for me through my military career, and I guess in life, was catching myself saying I made it, right? Which instantly, makes you feel like you should put your heels up, kick back. And then all of a sudden that's when you get surprised. So I know the Army for me was one of those things where it was constantly how can you improve? Congratulations on your accomplishments. Now keep going. So you became a Ranger and Special Operations. I remember my first deployment to Afghanistan. I was in Fob Farah, way out western deserts of Afghanistan. There was a ODA compound right next door, and those guys were jacked.
Yeah.
And I mean,
yeah,
bulbous jacked.
Yeah.
I swear they were just crossing over the border in Iran, going up to Herat and getting the black market steroid stuff.
They didn't have to go over there.
Oh my gosh. It almost like, how do you even move with the giant, it was huge biceps, huge pecs. I'm like, how do you can't even turn your neck. Some of these guys were so ridiculously huge. But okay, that just kind of leads me to what were you lifting for? I know you lifted competitively. Was this powerlifting? Was this bodybuilding? Are you lifting for size, for strength?
Different periods of my life. In high school, it was get stronger, get bigger, get fat, everything. Because you're the teenager, so everything needs to improve.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the goal was always probably to get bigger when I was younger, because that was, I correlate size with strength to a point. And then it became, when I got into Olympic weightlifting, it was about getting faster, more explosive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where a lot of my training shifted. And then when I got into strongman, Right, and also complete transparency. When I got into strongman, PEDs were allowed. In Olympic weightlifting, it wasn't something that I even touched. I didn't even consider because it was, you can get tested. And if you get tested, you're going to embarrass your coach, and then you just embarrass your team, and that's not acceptable. It's like it was an easy like, oh, I'm not doing that. But then when I went to strongman, it's one of those, well, if you're not really trying, kind of things. Almost like if you're going to go be a pro bodybuilder, there's a part of it that's a part of the territory. If you're going to go try to take a world title as a strongman in a particular weight class or chase a national title, I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but for majority of people, it's necessary. So when I got to strongman, it was about getting as big and as strong as I possibly could, but the training wasn't hypertrophy. Like I wasn't trying I wasn't training like a bodybuilder. I trained really heavy all the time. I just did a lot of volume. But when I say a lot of volume, it might have been 8 sets of 3 or something like that. That's quite a bit of volume for, a strength athlete. And then a lot of my accessories were all higher volume, which then created the muscular capacity. But at the same time, it did quite a bit of hypertrophy. So I don't want to say I really trained for one particular thing ever. Because I was a smaller 100-kilo guy. Because when I competed at 220, there was guys cutting from 250, and I showed up 217, 218, like just because I wasn't one of the bigger guys. I still did really well though. I still did really well because I had a lot of speed attachments. I spent my whole life, playing football and doing ranger stuff. So like speed was something that was always paramount, which carried over really well into strongman. But I digress. But so like what I was training for, it just depends on the season. So now I'm in a place to where I just want to be able to run a 7-minute mile, but still deadlift, 485, like 485, 500 pounds. Like that's still something that is super attainable and it's super maintainable so long as I train a particular modality, because I spent decades of my life building the foundation that can facilitate that at 40. I just years and years and years in my whole life training as consistently as I have, the density and muscle tissue that I've built over the last, 3 decades, 2.5 decades, has allowed me to get to where, like, I think I'm going to start focus on running for the next 6 weeks, and I don't lose a whole lot of strength. Mm-hmm. Or I can focus on getting strong again, and I don't lose a whole lot of speed, so long as I maintain a healthy balance. So now it's more so just about maintaining balance, being able to go 4 or 5 90-second, 120-second rounds on a bag without being completely gassed. You should be gassed. It's you're going to get what you put in, but still being able to operate at a particular pace that is uncomfortable but sustainable. Like I know that I can operate at this pace for every single round for the next 5 rounds, or I can push a little bit harder the last 10. Like it's just understanding where my body's at and having that capacity, and comprehending my capacity and being able to identify and apply it in a higher state when necessary, and then dial back when necessary. So now it's, like I said, it's more so just about understanding my body, what I'm capable of, and then learning how to pace myself to get from point A to point B as effectively as possible. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Cool.
And yeah, I get just, all those phases, right? We go through them as men, right? In our teens and school, it's definitely, you want to have that strength for sports. You also, you want people to look at you. You want that appreciation, right? You want the show off muscles. My kid's 14, and all he wants to do is bicep curls and bench press. But
that's where it starts, man. That's okay. That's where it starts. That's okay.
Yeah. And for me though, at 47 and an endurance runner, I spend hours running. So again, I've always been battling, hiding from the weights on the treadmill, and it's almost like I've got other things. I'm an entrepreneur, business owner, I've got a podcast. I've got 3 boys to raise, and after I spend hours on the treadmill, I'm like, oh, I don't have enough time for the weights, but I do know that I need them. At least I should be using them. Is there a particular methodology, training regimen that doesn't take 3.5 hours a
Oh
day?
yeah. Oh yeah. My workouts now are about 30, 45 minutes. I'm in and out. Like I started training in my garage. I have some wrestling mats in there. I have a bag. I have it's all like it's my garage is centered around Muay Thai and kickbox. My kid does kickboxing, so it's centered around that stuff.
Hmm.
A lot of my tools that I have down there are focused, can be utilized for any modality or methodology of training. It's just we use it for conditioning, core stability stuff, just really functional movements. But when I'm in my garage, I knock a workout out, mobility included, 40 minutes. Um, with the weight training session. So like the weight training session, about 40 minutes with a little bit of conditioning in there. If I go to the actual gym, which I actually started, this first commercial gym I've been a member of, God, probably 18 months. I just been in my garage the whole time because it's just been I go in there when I was living in North Dakota, I'd go to my garage, it's -20 out. And there was something about it suffering, and just me, it just sucks. That just get out there's like, this is going to suck. This is going to suck. But I know every single morning. And back then it was just go in the garage, do 100 box jump burpees, do 100 ground to overhead with a sandbag. It was nothing hard physically. It just sucks. And it's only going to take me 10 minutes. And for a period of time, that was what I did. I just did that because I was just super swamped with work, but I still did what I could to check a box that's going to give me the satisfaction of knowing that at least I didn't regress today mentally. I went out there and I did something hard and it was -20 and it sucked. It only took me 8 minutes and I got back inside. I warmed up. So it just depends on where you're at in your life. But I don't think that it's necessary to train that long unless it's necessary to train that long. Back then when lifting heavy was what I did, the rest in between sets could be 3 to 5 minutes. If I'm building to a heavy set of 2 on deadlift, I'm probably going to take 3 to 4 minutes between deadlifts. Like once I get past 600 pounds, like it was like, I'm going to take a few minutes, like because it was just a rule of thumb, and it worked. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like that for everybody. But for me, that's what it was. When I got to my heavy, 95+%, it was 3, 4, 5 minute rests in between. So like the workouts took that long. And then in strongman, setting up the equipment takes more time than you would think it does. Loading 700 pounds on a yoke takes time, And then when you do one round of the yoke runs, so yoke sprints, you're going to take probably 90, 120, maybe 3 minutes, 190 to 120 seconds, maybe 3 minutes to rest in between. So it was back then. That's what it required. Now it's more so just about keeping a healthy pump, keeping my heart rate elevated and in a particular area for a duration of time that I feel like I paid my dues. So like if there's a point through the workout that I'm not breathing uncontrollably heavy, not uncontrollably, but like borderline, like I'm dying a little bit, we got to go a little bit harder. Because I understand my body in a way to where I can understand my rate of perceived exertion to this is the heart rate I want to get to. This is where I want to maintain. So I should be able to do that. Probably about minute 20, I should be good and warm and ready to go. And then I hit the gas for 10 minutes and then I'm good to go. I just do a little bit of stretching afterwards. It takes me maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Yeah. So it's all dependent on your goal. It's all dependent on your goal. Like I said, just being the strongest dad at the playground doesn't require a whole lot, by today's standard. I mean, because it's just the thing is today, just doing the bare minimum, you're probably above average in today's societal standard of what a man is. So for me, conveniently, because of how much work I put in over my entire life, that 45 minutes is more than enough for me to get and maintain where I'm at, because it's a lot easier to maintain what you built than to create something new.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, like I've been saying, I trained my whole life. I've been lifting weights my whole life. And I'm not near as big as I used to. I'm 25 pounds lighter than I was at my biggest, 26. Shoot, no, I'm probably about 30 pounds lighter now because I was 190. Yeah, no, I'm 30 pounds lighter right now than I was at my biggest. And I feel great. It doesn't take me much to get a pump. It doesn't take me long to get in and get my mobility right because I stay mobile. So my mobility work, my dynamic warm-ups take about 5 to 8 minutes. And the workout itself might take me 30 minutes. I might close it out with maybe a 10-minute run with some intervals or something like that, or try to maintain a 7-minute mile, which isn't that's not something I'm focused on, but it's something I want to maintain. If I can maintain a 7-minute mile at 195 pounds at 5'9" and still deadlift 500 pounds and still touch my toes and still, like be able to go, I can still go run a 40-minute 5 mile if I have to. I don't want to, but I can. I can still knock out a 30-minute or 28 to 30-minute 5K, which is not blazing fast, but when you look at every modality of training that I'm partaking in, I'm average. Like I'm right in the middle of the group. I would say, in my opinion, on all the modalities of training that I train in. And in order for me to maintain that, it only takes about 35, 45 minutes if you know what you're doing, you know how to progressively overload yourself in a way that's going to be optimal for you as an individual athlete. And because I've lifted my whole life, I just know, and I coach quite a bit. I have quite a bit of athletes that I coach, and I understand capacities. All right, we're starting to overextend a little bit. I know you want to go harder, but we need to take a step back and rest because your elevated heart rate, your resting heart rate's up 4 beats per minute over last week's average. So that, and then that's all sciencey stuff. But like I pay attention to a lot of metrics and stuff like that as well with myself to maximize my recovery. And the days that I need to take it a little bit easier, I just take it a little bit easier. I still sweat. I still breathe pretty heavy, but I might not be going to do a heavy back squat or a heavy power clean or something like that. It might just be like, I'm just going to get on the treadmill and I'm going to run for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to do sled pushes or sled sprints until my legs feel like they're full of blood. And then I'm going to get on the Stairmaster for 10 minutes just to make sure they're capped. And then I'm done for the day. And it takes 35 minutes maybe. But I still reached a particular level of exertion where I feel satisfied and I feel like I progressed for the day. And the exertion doesn't necessarily need to be heavy weights or a pump or a 6-minute mile. It's just get in and do something where you feel accomplished and then get out. Because I have life. I have businesses to run. I have a career to maintain. I have a child to hang out with. I have kickboxing to go to watch in the evenings. I have a lot on my plate, so I can't spend 3 hours in the gym anymore. It's just not my priority. It's just not something I care about as much as I used to.
You mentioned the garage gym, and mine is I've actually built a pretty respectable garage gym. Squat rack, a couple, I got the treadmill, rower, and kettlebells, battle rope, all sorts of stuff. Most of it is collecting dust, but and I got to fight the ever threatening tide of kids stuff, the household stuff that ends up in the garage. But toss the bikes off the bench, and
Oh yeah,
but what you said about, I think it's maybe there's the army, the military mentality about embracing the suck. And I know it's going to suck, and overcoming that mental hurdle of just leaning into the suck, right? Getting out there, and like a lot of I tell a lot of runners is that sometimes lacing up is the hardest part of the run, and it's the same for getting in the gym, right? When you're South Dakota, it's 20 below. Yeah, that bar is going to be cold, but just it adds another component to the workout.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
The only way to warm up, right,
is to warm up.
get it moving.
Is to get moving.
I live in Florida, so my garage gets hot, and I actually installed one of those mini split air conditioners that's right over, like right behind me, in the by the treadmill, and then I started training for bad water, and I knew that it was going to be hot, so I didn't turn the fan on. I didn't turn the AC on. I just went into my garage, was hot and humid, the sun just radiating through the garage door, which did not open. And I trained with it is I tried to turn up the suck as much as possible. And you know what happened when we got to Death Valley? Everybody is talking about how hot it is, and I couldn't wait to. I was waiting for it. As soon as we stepped out from the hotel room, and somebody said, "Oh, it's so hot," I said, "Yeah, but it's a dry heat." But
That's
the truth
that's
is,
the thing. Yeah, man.
yeah, the truth of it is was that I mean, like you make it suck, make it hurt, make it hard, because when it comes to go time, you just built up that more of that resilience, uh,
Right.
almost that I guess that inner peace that comes with preparation.
It it's not just that. It's your comprehension of what's hard evolves. So when you do, I just use the military for example because it's a really easy example. We never did anything in combat that was even remotely as difficult as it was speaking for myself, my experience at war, on my 2 trips over. Nothing we did was even remotely, even a fraction of how hard training was. Ever. Ever. We're gonna walk for 5,000 meters. Like, okay, that's nothing. Or when my private is carrying a sledgehammer and a hooligan, and my other one's carrying an extension ladder on his back for 5K. Like, that we did this for 10 miles for funsies on a Saturday morning because he pissed off the platoon sergeant. Like, this is easy. This is easy now. So when you train like that and you train in an environment that is going to be comparable or more difficult than what the actual game day scenario would be, you're that much more prepared. You look at what's his name? Zydrunas Savickas. He's one of the best strongmen to ever live. Like, he's world record holder. He beat an old, I don't want to say washed up because he's not washed up. He's just older. You take him at the Arnold when he competed against Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw was in his prime, younger, healthy, monster of a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so Junis, he gets up. You could hear him he's like, oh, like he just, he makes those old man noises, but he's still competing at the absolute pinnacle of the sport. The Arnold strongman competition is the heaviest strongman event on the planet. World's Strongest Man doesn't hold a candle to how heavy the Arnold is. And Zydrunas beat Brian Shaw. An older, weathered Zydrunas beat Brian Shaw in his young and in his prime. And Shaw trains on the best equipment on everything, right? Zydrunas, he was there in, I forgot what country he's out of. Lithuania, maybe? I forget. But he trained in a dark, almost basement with no air condition, no heater, no nothing. It's cold. So he trained in an environment that molded his mind to be much more resilient to hardship. He didn't make up excuses if he lost. He's like, oh, I tore my this or I tore my that. It's like, I just got to do better next time. So and I've noticed that the guys who make up excuses are the guys who have all the amenities for them provided to be where they're at. Not saying that they don't put the work in, because they absolutely need to put the work in to get to where they're at. But you have all these extra tools and all these comforts that do, in my opinion, at the peak, at the pinnacle for in any sport or for any man, not training in an environment that is harder than everybody else is going to be your limiting factor in how much you progress. If you could, let's just say mathematically, you could get an extra 1% or an extra 0.5% or extra 0.1% out of every workout if you trained in a garage that was 100 degrees. And you do that for a decade. That 0.1% day after day is going to accumulate into something significant that's going to provide you the tools to go that extra 2 or 3 steps when everyone else is breaking down. Because you just have it up here mentally that psychologically, this is not as hard as everyone else thinks it is. It's still difficult, but everyone else that's fallen off, it's because they didn't train in an environment to train their mind to be able to get through the harder things understanding that their body is capable of getting through this harder thing. And just because something hurts doesn't mean you're out of the fight. And I think that training in environments like that helps you condition your brain in a way that provides you that skill set, that perspective. Like, look at David Goggins, for example. Like, the guy's out there running ultra marathon after ultra marathon after ultra marathon. Like, the dude doesn't stop. He lives in a pool of suffering.
But
And you look at
he
what is
likes
created for him.
pain.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But you look at what is created for him. His work ethic in embracing suffering has built this, or as far as the public is concerned, it's built like this unbreakable human. Like, I will go until my body absolutely fails. That's David Goggins's, but he didn't just wake up and get there. Like, he had to train his mind to. I think what does he call it? Callous. He calluses his mind. Like, just do hard things over and over and over and over and over, and eventually, the hard stuff isn't hard anymore. Cold showers is another perfect example. Wake up and take a cold shower. Do it every day. I promise you, by the second week, it's almost like it's much more tolerable. It's much more tolerable because you've conditioned yourself to do something that's hard that your mind now interprets as like this is just normal. So now my old hard is now my new normal. And then if you end up like David, you're continuously raising the bar to make it harder and harder, which you should do. I think every man should do in some capacity because there is no ceiling to any aspect of being a man. That's the ceiling. There is none. You can always be better in something, somewhere. Fitness, fatherhood, being a son, being a provider, being a protector, being an employee, being an athlete, being a designer, whatever it is that you do, there are always areas to improve. And even it doesn't necessarily always have to be physical. Like, do the hard thing. Like, if you need to read this extra chapter and take the notes, then do it. If you have to knock out this project, then do it. Because just doing the work it's the same concept, just a different vehicle. So it's in everything. A man should be able to continuously pursue everything through suffering, because suffering is what creates the hardships that allow him to evolve. You got to do hard things to evolve.
After these messages, we'll be right back. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this episode, Extraordinary Delights, EODFudge.com. Extraordinary Delights is a disabled veteran, family-owned small business making handcrafted fudge and other sweet treats for the chocolate-loving patriots just like you. Go to EODFudge.com and check out some of our delicious flavors like triple threat chocolate with or without walnuts, mint dark chocolate, strawberry and creamy white chocolate, or my personal favorite, American Pick-Me-Up, an all-American version of tiramisu. While you're there, go to the apparel store and check out our awesome t-shirts, polos, and the baddest tactical apron on the market. You see me wear on the TikTok show, Aaron Hale's Cook Without Looking. So, right now, go over to EODFudge.com and pick out some fudge, other sweet treats for that patriot in your life with a sweet tooth. That's EODFudge.com. EODFudge.com. And now, back to the show. What was that saying? That do hard things so life will be easy, or you can take it easy and then life will be hard.
That's 100% true. 100% true.
Yeah,
100%.
They're talking about. Let's just picturing Rocky, versus Dolph. He had all the highest tech workout equipment, and Rocky's like pulling a sleigh with people in the back through the snow. And it sucks. It's a good workout, and you get that. You're just getting additional components. It's like those complex motions, and the added layers of the mental fortitude. So that I'm trying to think of. Actually, I lost my train of thought there. While you were just talking about doing the hard things, right? And you know, what I wanted to ask you though was Are you still in the service? Are you still
No,
Army?
no. I got out in 2007 is when I left. Yep.
And what happened then?
Uh, like I got out to try to save a marriage, like most service members. Like a lot of dudes get out to try to save things that they break. um, and I was 22. My first time to have real freedom ever in my life. I mean, I went from 18 in the military 3 weeks after high school. Um, I became a personal trainer, which made sense. I worked at GNC, which made sense. And then, I mean, I did the the kid life for a little while. I never had freedom. I was able to go out and drink, and I partied, and I did a lot of the things that, in my opinion, were good for me. In retrospect, looking back, because it helped me understand. Like I got to experience that life a little bit. I'm not curious about it at all. It's not for me, even a little bit anymore. Um, so I did that, and then I got into my career that I'm in now. It's well, now I'm more so of a, at this point, a consultant in the oil and gas industry. But I started off as an inspector in the oil and gas industry, and then I stayed in that career field, and I started personal training on the side, and then I stopped doing that altogether. I started traveling for work, and then yeah, now I just work when I want to work. Because now I've got myself to a place in my job now where I don't want to say I necessarily make my own schedule, but I do. I pretty much just make my own schedule. If a job pops up, I decide whether I'm going to go help out or not, or whatnot. I'm not. It's not so much like it was in the military. It's like, hey, you're going here. It's more, I'm tied up. I'm not going to be able to make that one kind of thing, and everybody's fine with it. Which allows me enough time to work on my companies, coach my athletes, continue to build out our coaching program, our coaching company, and it allows me to put more eggs in other baskets that have priority. So that's where I'm at now. That it's been a lot of the same for the last, what am I, 40, 18 years. Lift weights and just work, lift weights and work, lift weights and work, raise a son.
Was the decision, given that your father was a career soldier, was the decision to separate from the Army a difficult one? What was the process like?
Yeah, man. I think that the most difficult, the hardest part about being discharged was you still think you're one of the dudes, and you're just not. Like you are for a little while, but like when you link up with the boys, and a lot of those guys are still in, or there's some get together, and this guy's, he's gone to CAG, or I guess SFO Delta, or this guy went to Special Forces, and this guy's in the CIA ground teams, like, and these guys are still doing all this really cool stuff, and you're having conversations that are still the same, but the energy is a little bit different. I mean, I think it's been difficult to navigate through. Like, I'm still the same man, but I'm still not. I didn't evolve in the same path that these other guys did. And I mean, I think for the warfighter, there's always a small sense of envy that these guys are still getting to go out and do, that's go fight wars, go into combat. And I think there's certain kind of men out there that are just born with it. It's just in their blood. And I come from, I mean, my dad was special operations. My first cousin was an Apache pilot. My great grandfather fought in World War II. Like, we come from a long line of warriors, and I happen to be the one that, as far as I know, that didn't retire. All the rest of them retired.
Mm-hmm.
So it was difficult, man. It really was. And I think another problem that the military has, I don't know if it's as bad now. It could probably worse, to be honest. Is they don't really teach you how to disconnect from that lifestyle. Like I think there definitely needs to be some sort of out processing, counseling, schedule, or some sort of program in place that helps guys from special operations, who not just special operations, but I say special operations because primarily those are the guys who see the dirtiest of combat on an average, like, per soldier basis. And when you see a lot of things that you see at war, and you do a lot of things that you do at war, it weighs on you as you get. I wasn't really. I was good after I got out. I didn't feel anything. I was good. Like there was no. Like there were certain things that were like, damn, that sucks, but it wasn't anything that was super heavy for me. That as I got older, I got married, I had a son, and I started to understand life a lot differently. There's things that surface now on occasion with me. Like there's certain times a year that it just and it's my wife can identify it, and I don't even realize it until I have a memory pop up on my Facebook or something like that. Like, oh shit, this is when Barraza Brim got hit. Like, and these things come flooding back, and the military, in my opinion, doesn't do a very good job on getting guys a firm or a better understanding of how to detach from certain things. They teach you how to turn it on. I mean, you go to the Ranger, go to RIP. Well, it's RASP now, but like during that like, because when I went through RIP and pre-Ranger, like these are Rangers who were at the beginning of the war. Like these are guys on the first deployments to like, there's a lot of bad guys. There's no installation set up. They're situating themselves. They're living out of tents. They're fighting in the mountains and living in the mountains. Like it was a different war for them than it was for me. Like I got to go back to the hooch most of the time. I mean, sometimes we slept on cots, but most of the time we got to go back to the hooch. We got to go get Burger King. We got the gym. We got to play Halo all night and slam energy drinks and just, be dudes. It was different. My war was different. Even in 2004, when I went, it was different than it was in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we're established. I mean, there's a Subway down the road. Like serious, like that. We just America-fied. We just made this small compound America, essentially. There's a Burger King, a Subway, there's a TV store, there's it's a small city. It's a small village, it's a small city.
It was never more than
the guys when
20
they started,
feet from a Rip-It.
Yeah. We all had cases under our beds, under our cots. Everybody had a case. We'd have contests. We would make the privates drink them until they threw up.
Oh my gosh. What was that? I read the most disgusting article in Task and Purpose. It was about a Rip-It case contest. Oh, it's awful. Just the after effects.
That's bad.
Getting called out on a QRF. But you should try finding that. Oh, man, that's awful.
Oh, yeah, man. The Narcom, like, your resting heart rate's like 130. It wasn't good. It wasn't healthy, the stuff we were doing. But, I mean, it's soldiers being soldiers. It's just, it's boys being boys. Like, they were 18, 19, 20 years old. And this isn't the generation, like, this is the generation of kid who grew up in the 80s, in the 90s, before smartphones. We still scraped our knees. We still climbed trees. We still rode our bikes. We still went swimming in the creeks. We drank out of the water hose. It wasn't like it is today where these kids have, I mean, shoot, man, they have like, how do you have your cell phone going through OSIT or basic training? That's you're not necessarily preparing these kids for war, because I understand that they need to communicate and they're soft and whatever. We can do better. But if they are soldiers, then their sole purpose is as a soldier in the military or Marine or whomever, whatever's branch, you're there to protect and serve if we get invaded or if we go to war. We're not doing any of these kids any help by letting them talk on their phone. Like, you have to prepare, like I said, callous the mind a little bit. And so what? They're getting 3 square meals. They don't get yelled at all anymore. They don't get beat at all anymore. Not that that's acceptable, but it was different for me.
A horrible experiment with the stress cards. I think this was Navy basic training where you could.
Oh, then they yeah. I saw memes about that a long time ago. How is that a thing? Because if you can't handle this, I say this respectfully, so I'm crystal clear, but if you can't handle this 5'2" female that weighs 110 pounds screaming in your face, buddy, you are not ready for combat. I'm not saying she can't be scary, because she's probably the scariest one there. But the reality is, those aren't bullets. She's not trying to kill you. You're still going to get to go eat breakfast. You're still going to get your eggs. You're still going to get your water. You're still probably going to get to use your cell phone at the end of the day to call your mom and tell her how mean the drill sergeant is. Like, that's not preparing these kids for war. That's just not. And I understand that not every job and not every skill set requires the same level of tenacity, maybe, but there still needs to be a standard
at basic training.
Oh no, we weren't. No, I don't think we were either. I didn't get to use the phone for like 9 weeks, and even then, you got like 5 minutes to call mom. and it was on a payphone, and
You
gosh,
write
man, like it was so
letters.
different. And I understand, and it's easy to say that like every generation gets softer. Um, and that's true because I mean, my dad's generation, like when I told him what Ranger School was like for me, he laughed at me. He said, "Y'all got 2 meals?" He's like, "We got 1 meal." I was like, "Yeah, but the generation before you probably had to go kill their food." Like, no, I'm not saying that might not have been what happened, but the same concept. It progressively gets easier with every generation, but I think the generation between us and the next, like this current generation, there is an exponentially larger gap
I think it's different.
between capabilities. Not physically or anything like that, because they're absolutely capably physically. It's just their mental fortitude isn't quite the same because they're not tested in as deep of waters as it was way back when.
Well,
And
it's that
but you can say that about
mental,
every generation, though. Really,
the mental fortitude that we've been talking about throughout, uh, and I think it's definitely different nowadays when you've got this. It's the internet in your pocket, which is like the world's largest crack candy store, if for melting your brain. So you've got it's almost well, it's definitely a weakened uh, resilience when you're just bombarded with TikTok and Snapchat and all that kind of stuff, and then uh, you get challenged by reality. So yeah, I can't imagine. And hopefully that tide's turning in the military with the new set def and what's happening today. But um, what uh, what does what does living a life of impact mean to you?
that's my legacy, but it's not legacy. Living a life. I like to say this is the way I generally put it. I want my son to grow up to be the kind of man I would want my daughter to marry. I want him to have the same values and traits and be as good of a man as I would think would be necessary for me to say that's a good man for my daughter.
Hmm.
And I don't have a daughter, but if I were to have a daughter, like, and then so like wanting my son to grow up to be my evolution, which he absolutely is on course because he has all the skills he has all the virtues I didn't. He's insanely kind. He is the kindest, most selfless little boy in the world, which I was the complete opposite. I was a jerk. I was a bully. Like I was the jock kind of kid. The jock, I was kind of the bully to the bullies, but I got in a lot of fights and stuff like when younger, and I was mean. It's kind of a bully, and he's not any of those things. So I was like, and as I'm older and I understand where I should have done better, he's already ahead of me. It's like, okay, cool. Now I just have to mold my son to be physically capable to doing hard things and willing to suffer, and which is just you can condition the dog into a kid. Like we just gotta do hard things, man. But the thing is like when you force them to do it, it's different as opposed to you suffering with them. If you lead from the front and you suffer, like, hey man, we're gonna go downstairs and we're gonna do 100 burpees. It's gonna suck, but let's go. I'm gonna do every single one of them with you. His enthusiasm for me telling him, hey man, I got 100 burpees today. It's like shit. He doesn't want to do it. It's like, oh, whatever, man. Let's go. I'll do it with you. He's like, well, okay. And you get in there and you do it with them, and at the end of it, that sense of pride that little dude has, it's like it's a very proud moment for a dad to feel how accomplished his son feels after just doing something like 100 burpees. And then when he watches you do it with him, you're impacting him in a way that's going to help him understand that leadership, true, genuine leadership, is leading from the front and being willing to suffer with the team and being willing to do the things that you need to do, being willing to go that extra mile without even being questioned. Like it's second nature. It's not even a question of whether I'm gonna get it done or not. It's how fast can I get it done.
And what is he?
And I think that's my impact. My living a life of impact is leaving a legacy, because I use legacy as like this. He's my legacy. So leave him in the absolute best condition that I can, so he can go out and find a woman that is, or whatever. Find a partner that is worthy of what he can provide and has the same value, so he can raise children that are going to continue to help others and continue to make my grandkids even better, then my great grandkids even better. And then in doing so, like, there's bound to be some people in that mix of things in that family tree that are going to go out and do things in the world that are going to impact other people. So it all starts. I mean, it starts with my dad, and you can take it up as high as you want. But for me, it's like, it starts with me. Like, where can I do better to leave a better legacy for my son to live and adhere by, but not just comply with, but to evolve out of, create something better. So your kid can achieve. You just keep raising the bar, and I think that's how we leave a lasting impact that's going to be continuing to impact other people and family, is to help him understand that there is no ceiling, that we're always going to be striving to be better in something. Like, even when I retire from everything I'm doing, I'm not going to stop learning. I'm not going to stop reading. I'm not going to stop. Maybe I want to learn Japanese or something. Like, there's always something to do to expand some area of your life. Maybe I start going to Pilates or yoga or something that's hard. I mean, I laughed at Pilates until I did it. Those women kicked my butt. I couldn't keep up. Even the yoga stuff, they kicked my butt when I went to try that stuff. Oh, cool. There's areas that I can absolutely improve on physically that aren't detrimental to my body. I'm going to keep that in my back pocket. It's not for me now, but at some point in my life, that's something else I can improve on that'll continue to help me become a more well-rounded or experienced athlete. And that's for everything. That goes for everything. Like, don't stop taking classes. Don't stop going to school. If you want to learn more about business, maybe start hopping in masterminds. If you want to learn more about XYZ, there's probably some club or some organization out there that has some sort of a membership thing that can help you learn this particular thing. And that's the beauty of the internet. Like, we have access to everything. So there's no excuse not to be better, to develop a better, a more well-rounded life, to set the example for your kids to take and understand, and then raise the bar, and then continue to evolve. Like, your family tree, that's the impact, man. It's like you set a precedence for your family to never stop evolving.
Man,
just get better.
Appreciate where you've, from where you've come and how where you've gotten, but don't be satisfied.
Right. But at the same time, appreciate the wins, because that's something that I had to learn how to do. Like, it was just all work. There was no stopping and to practice. It wasn't until I got married to my wife that I stopped on a daily basis and started practicing genuinely practicing gratitude. Like, where did I do better today? Where could I do better? Well, I could do this better, and this better, but I still did this, and this, which were all wins. Today was a net positive. Did I take 15 steps forward? No. Did I take half step forward? Yeah. It's still forward. That's still a win.
We're starting to go a little bit long here, but I did remember one question that it came up when you were talking about your peak weightlifting, powerlifting journey. You're talking about going to the chiropractor weekly. Was this something? Is that a negative effect on your spine from lifting so much weight?
No, it was more so. Is it negative? I mean, I could debate both sides of it. I mean, is it good to compress your spine with 700 pounds? Probably not. I mean, for your spine, but at the same time, is it good to stimulate to find that particular stimulus
Mm-hmm.
and build the muscles and the tools and the capability or physical structure necessary to move it? I don't see how that's a bad thing. Like, my body is strong enough to the point to where I can put 700 pounds on my back and walk for 90 feet.
Well, when I was
So, like, is it good for me? I mean, it's good and bad. The chiropractor was just a check in the box, make sure my hips are aligned, pop my neck, pop a few things. I did mobility every single day for 15 minutes of my day, 10 to 15 minutes every single day. I mean, I'm sure there was a few days I missed.
what I was saying about like the chiropractor for me, it was I went through a phase where I was running 100-mile weeks, and I was getting prone to lower back issues and even throwing my back out, which would of course uh, impede my training. And so, and then I would go to the chiropractor and get twisted up and popped and all that, and it would help some. But then I would get right back into this issue with the
Yeah.
throwing my back out again. So I started doing yoga,
Yep. Okay.
and
That's where I was
and
going to go.
oh man, that's what's been keeping my back
Hmm.
strong. It's the stretching
I'm
and
not a
breathing.
chiropractor, so I'm clear. But I've probably had over 100 visits to a chiropractor in my life. I mean, I went quite a bit. Um, for me, they put things where they need to, and it's up to me to build a structure around it once they put it where it goes to keep it where it's at. Yoga is a big one. Core in regards to chiropractor and lower back issues, core structure and conditioning and strength, core strength and mobility. You keep on top of those two things, and you'll keep your body relatively free of any back end. Oh, I mean, there obviously are case by case, but for the most part, you can fix a lot of problems with your back by just doing proper mobility work. Stretching, yoga is a great one. I don't have time to go for a 60-minute yoga session, so I knock out like the stretches I need to do on a daily basis, and it takes me 10 minutes. It's just a quick dynamic warm up. It's a lot of hip stretching, and then or getting my hips mobile, get my lower back mobile. Just it's all maintenance. And then when I feel something's a little tweaky, I just go to the chiropractor. Oh yeah, your hips are a little bit off. He'll pop them, and then okay, great. Now I need to add a little bit more of X Y Z to try to mitigate that from happening in the future. So I think it's extremely beneficial, but it's only beneficial if you do the work to keep it where it needs to go.
Right.
Yeah, I don't. I'm just gonna bring it up anyway. So like you take psilocybin for example. Like if it's something that a lot of veterans that I know are microdosing to help with PTSD and anxiety and stuff like that. And I can say for myself, you can ask my wife. Like I'm a not completely different person, but I'm a much better person. Um, but it's only going to work if you do the work. You can't just do something like that and not do anything about it. Like I started journaling on a regular basis. I started practicing gratitude daily. These are all things that I had to train my brain to start doing on its own in order for me to maintain a particular level of mental health. It's no different with your back. You still need to do mobility. You still need to do core work. You still need to do some level of physical activity to keep your heart healthy. And these are all things that you should be doing. You can't just, I took some vitamins today, so I'm healthy. It's like, no, you probably should still go for a walk, get your heart rate up a little bit, like exert yourself a little bit because it's not going to just fix you. So the chiropractor isn't just going to fix you. They're going to put things where they're supposed to be. It's up to you whether you do the work to reinforce it. Same thing with the psilocybin microdosing stuff. The same thing with taking a multivitamin. The same thing with absolutely everything. Where you go to a third party to help or exert a exogenous form of I'll just say therapy isn't going to do anything for you if you don't do the self work. And that's where discipline and consistency come in. You have to stay disciplined to this. You have to stay consistent with this, or you're going to be right back over here again. And you're just going to keep on that loop until you make a change. And that's the thing that a problem most people make. They go to the chiropractor and they don't do anything after. So if you go to the chiropractor, you might want to go for maybe a 15-minute walk, just kind of let everything settle in. You don't just go get everything popped and then go sit behind your desk for 4 hours. What are you doing? That defeats the purpose almost. Like you're sure you're okay now, but everything's going to go right back to where it was. Like go for a walk, do some stretching, do some core work. It takes you 15 minutes a day, and now your lower back's fixed. You don't have to go to a chiropractor anymore. It's just doing the self work.
Far better than popping pills later for
Oh
whatever,
yeah, that's the
as a
thing.
band-aid.
People, that's the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is that if you don't do the work soon, it's going to be a lot more difficult later because it's going to be harder for you to maintain trying to get healthy than it's going to be for you just to maintain health.
Well, you know what? That's a great place to bring it in. So let's get into the final segment, the countdown to impact. So 3 books, 2 quotes, and one person who have all made an impact in your life.
Oh man. So books. Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill was probably in my adulthood one of the first books I've read that really resonated with me on a different level of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
I did the audiobook because I liked the way they narrated it. I think they did a beautiful job with that one. Dan Crenshaw, his book, I don't think it's like Outrage Culture or Culture of Outrage, or I think I forget what it is, what the name of the title of it is, but I read that one a long time ago, and that helped me understand a lot more of the culture of America today.
Mm-hmm.
From a guy I deeply respect. I mean, outside of his insider trading stuff, that's a whole nother conversation. But as a human being, I have a lot of respect for him. So, and his perspective in that book, the way he wrote it, it resonated with me pretty heavily. And then, so that one would probably be tied with Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership, because that one probably impacted my life the most, to be completely honest. Because I was able to apply the way he presents it, and he uses his combat experience with real life scenarios in the corporate world. Being able to make that correlation between the two as a metaphor, it changed my whole perspective. Like, well, okay, this is the problem. So it's different. The way he breaks it down, he presents it in a way that resonated with me to the point that I was able actually to apply these things to my life and almost measurably be able to identify where things are getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess I guess that was 3 books. One more book. Alex Hormozy's $100 million offer is probably my most other one that impacts me the most, because I've done chapters of that book, goodness, 25 times. I have chapters in the book where I have pages of notes, and I listen to the same chapter over and over and taking notes. Because his approach to what I'm doing is everything that I'm doing in my companies right now are all things that I learned from him and that I've expanded on to make it personal to my company, but not a single one of them hasn't worked. Like I take that same concept and I just keep tailoring it until it starts to hit.
Do you also read $100 million leads?
Yeah, $100 million offers. $1 million leads was his first book.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Did you also read that?
Oh yeah, I did that one a few times too. I've been listening to Alex for, 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Now, a good while. Every single day, actually, I listen to him, like whether it's on his podcast or if I'm driving. It's even when I go to the gym, sometimes I listen to his podcast just because it gets my brain like ticking. It's something of interest for me that stimulates brain function. It just gets my brain thinking, and then I just like to think about something that's productive instead of being irritated that Taylor Swift is at the Super Bowl or something. You know what I mean? Like it's a far left example, but it's kind of like I don't want to think about the things that society's telling me to think about. Mm-hmm. I want to think about the things and focus on the things that are help me progress my life. And this is an area that I have interest in. I'm going to listen to enthusiastically. And I'm going to retain. So that's something that I do.
And it pushes, moves the needle forward, right? I mean, it doesn't hurt that Hormozy is, started in the same field as you.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Okay. Great recommendations. And how about 2 quotes or rules of thumb?
2 quotes. I really like. I have it written down actually right here. Can I curse? Is that okay? To curse? Okay. It's his Alex Hormozy. It's not poor me. It's poor anyone else that has to fucking try. To me, that you set the bar so insanely high for yourself that when you achieve it and you look back and there's nobody left, you did something right. Because I know that I put the work in that was necessary for me to do. If you want something that nobody else has, you have to go do things that nobody else does. And that's just what it takes. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are people out there that do it, but on average, the average entrepreneur, they're good at 2 things maybe in the business. And then they focus on those 2 things and everything else just they never get to where they want to go because they don't have the skill set or are willing to work on the skill set necessary to unclog the bottlenecks. I don't know sales. I had to learn sales. I don't know marketing. I had to learn marketing. I had to learn all these things. And these are all things that are rooted in that quote. Like, these are things I have to do. And another quote, Oh man, there's I forget what it was Colonel. I forget the colonel's name. It was a regiment guy, and he said, "They ask us how we do it," and I simply replied, "We do what's expected of us." And that hits. I actually have it. I have that poster in my garage, and I can't picture the colonel's name right now, but I read that almost every day, and that resonates to me a lot. Because just do what's expected of you. What do you think is expected of you? This, okay, great, do that. It's not hard. You already know what you need to do. You just make that. You just need to make the active decision to go and execute. And then when you get there, if you feel like you could have did better, well, then that's not what was expected of you. Do better. While at the still same time, practice gratitude, appreciate your wins, understand where you came from, understand where you're at and what the work that took to got there, but understand there's still more work to do. You're not done. You still have more work to do. So continuously doing what's expected of you. And it ends up turning into not even so much what people or whomever expects from you. It's what you expect from yourself, because that's what it starts to root into. I know that I'm better than this, so I don't really have an excuse not to do better in this, because I need to hold myself accountable to it. And I have probably 40 different quotes from Jocko that all resonate, because I think he's like one of our age's stoic, like he's like one of the stoic guys from our generation of human, of being alive, because he resonates with a lot of guys. I don't know many guys he doesn't resonate with who actually listen to him.
That reminds me of, remember those AFN commercials, like the propaganda, with there was the one where the couple guys meet on the track, and they're like, "Oh, you're getting ready for the PT test coming up soon." So, yeah, we better start training. And they get out jogging, and like they flash forward to maybe a mile later, and they're both like panting and sitting down, and they see this other guy just keep doing lap after lap after lap. And one guy says, how does he do it? I don't know, but he does it every day.
That's how he does it.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but he does it every day.
It's not hard. You just have to put the work in.
Yep.
Like if you're running a 10-minute mile or 15-minute mile, how do you get better at running? Go run. How do you get better at bench pressing? Go bench press.
Yeah.
Like just start somewhere. You can optimize it in time, but the first thing you need to do is just get on the horse and start moving. That's it.
Okay. And one person that's made an impact in your life.
Oh man, there's so many. But I would say the person who's impacted my life the most is my wife. I was a different person when my wife came around. Very, very different person. Very mean, violent, aggressive, like very, very different, completely different human. And she saw something in me that was worth fixing. I was in a million pieces. Like I went through a divorce. My wife had left with my son, and it was just a whole thing, And I was hormonally insanely unstable because when I was super competitive. So I had a lot of exogenous hormones in my body that did not help me at all, in the regard to mental health. And she came along and she saw the good in me, and she just got to work. And when she saw me break down over certain things, the way she stood by me and let me sort myself out while still at the same time giving me a shoulder to lean on. I'd never had a shoulder to lean on. Not somebody that I trusted whole entirely with my history and the things that I've done and the things that I've seen and the things I've been a part of. And I think that goes for a lot of veterans, particularly the special operations community, because we see a lot of death, and you see a lot of collateral damage that you don't realize is at the time, it's kind of like, oh, wow, that was crazy when you're 19, 20, 22 years old, but then when you get a little bit older and those things start to resurface and you get into a place of depression because survivor's guilt or whatever. I'm not going to dig too deep into it, but she stood by me through everything. She's seen me completely lose it and just not it. And it's the thing is like, it's like 98% of the time, it's not her. That's the root of my problem. She just happens to be the person that's within, you know, metaphorically, like arm's distance, that just has to blunt the storm. And she never did it. She never did it. And then when I would collect myself and I would apologize for whatever, she just, it's okay. Like she really, I've never felt peace until my wife came into my life. Like true, genuine peace with where I'm at in my life, where I'm going in my life, the things that I've done. And, like there's times where she's established herself in my life in a way to where if I'm in a place, I can just hold my wife. Or completely honest, like there's times I just put my face into her chest and she just holds my head. Certain times of the year. And sorry. And there's things that she pulls me through. And to be completely honest, I had a closet full of traumas and demons that I stuffed inside of it. I just compartmentalized like most veterans. And I genuinely believe the universe, or for me, God, lets you feel things the way you need to feel things when the time is right. And there were certain things that I buried in a closet, and I locked the door for a period of time until I had the support I needed, and that God decided that it was time for me to feel the things that I needed to feel. And man, I had a rough go of it for a little while. And she never wavered. She never wavered. Because she could just sense it. She'd walk into my office when I'm working and she could just sense it. And then she would say, hey, whenever you're ready to take a break, maybe we should go for a walk outside, or just anything, just to detach me. And my wife, 100% has impacted my life in a way that has changed me more than anything or anybody else I think probably ever could. And I'm a firm believer that behind every single man, not every, but majority of men who are great, who go on to do big and phenomenal and create and build things, is the woman that gives him the peace and the foundation to go out and change the world. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be the father I am. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be the employee or even just the person I am. Like every single person in my family will tell you that I'm 180 degrees different from where I was 5 years ago.
You sound like a very lucky man.
No, I am beyond lucky. I am blessed. This isn't luck. I'm very, very blessed to have a woman like my wife, like my Tristan in my life.
Well, that's a great place to wrap it up. So, Joe, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing your experiences with the Disruptor Nation. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, find out more, get in contact, where do they go?
My Instagram, at Mr. _ Joe Lup. That's about it. Instagram.
All right. Well then, take care.
All right, man. I appreciate you having me on.